A 19-year-old Brazilian winger arrives in England in January. 8 Premier League appearances, 2 goals, 1 assist, and now Real Madrid, PSG, Manchester United, and Arsenal are all watching his every move. Welcome to James Arsenal Analysis. I am James. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because we cover Arsenal the right way. No clickbait, no fabricated stories, just real analysis with real facts. And today we are talking about Rayan, the Bournemouth teenager who has taken the Premier League by storm in the space of just 2 months. And we are going to break down exactly what this story means for Arsenal, whether the numbers make sense, how it fits into Mikel Arteta's squad, and what needs to happen before a move like this becomes realistic. Let us get into it. Let me start by giving you the full picture on this kid, because I think some people are getting carried away with the excitement and not actually understanding what makes him special. Rayan, full name Rayan Vitor Simplicio Rocha, was born on the 3rd of August 2006. He is 19 years old. He came through at Vasco da Gama in Brazil, one of the most historic clubs in South American football. And he made enough of an impression there that Bournemouth came calling in January of this year, paying an initial £24.7 million, with add-ons that could take the total to just over £30 million. Now, at the time, some people raised an eyebrow, £30 million for a teenager from the Brazilian league who had never played a minute of Premier League football. Was that a risk? Absolutely. Was it justified? Right now, based on what we have seen, absolutely yes. Let me walk you through why Bournemouth made this move in the first place. Antoine Semenyo, their first choice wide attacker on the right, left for Manchester City in the January window. That was a significant departure. Semenyo had been one of the most exciting forwards in the Premier League over the past year. Losing him created a genuine problem for Andoni Iraola and his coaching staff. They needed a replacement with pace, directness, and the ability to create and score. And rather than going to the market for an experienced Premier League name, they backed themselves to find the next talent from South America. That is a very Bournemouth way of operating. And right now, it looks like a masterstroke. Because Rayan did not just ease himself in slowly, he did not have an adjustment period. He came on as a substitute on his debut and provided an assist. First start, he scored. Second start, he scored again. That is instant impact at the highest level. That is not easy for any player. That is not easy for a 30-year-old veteran making a move within Europe. The fact that a 19-year-old Brazilian can arrive mid-season in a foreign country in one of the most demanding and physical leagues in world football and produce immediately, that tells you something extraordinary about the mental strength and technical quality of this player. And now, at this moment in late March 2026, Rayan has 8 Premier League appearances, 7 starts, 2 goals and 1 assist. His last outing was the Bournemouth versus Manchester United match, which finished 2-2, and he rated a 6.5 on SofaScore. Not his best game, but he was still influencing play, still causing problems, still being a live threat. What makes him so dangerous? Let me break it down tactically, because this is where it gets really interesting for Arsenal fans. Rayan is not a one-dimensional winger. A lot of young wide players at his age have one-weapon pace. They run in behind, they beat the fullback with speed, and if that is taken away from them, they struggle. Rayan is different. Yes, he has pace, but he also has physical power. At 185 centimeters, he is a big winger. He wins aerial duels. He has a strong header. He can hold the ball up under pressure. He has a long-range shot in both feet. And crucially, he can operate on both flanks. He is not nailed to one side of the pitch. Carlo Ancelotti himself described Rayan as, and I am paraphrasing here, a powerful and disciplined player with quality and a good attitude. Ancelotti called him a future star for the national team. When the Brazil head coach, one of the greatest managers in the history of football, is saying those things about your 19-year-old in March, right before a Summer World Cup, you understand why the biggest clubs in the world are paying attention. Because here is the other layer to this story. Rayan has received his first senior Brazil call-up for this international window. Brazil face France and Croatia in friendlies. These are not meaningless games. These are the final auditions before Ancelotti names his World Cup squad for this summer. If Rayan performs well in those friendlies, he does not just go to the World Cup. He goes to the World Cup as one of the most talked about teenage players on the planet. And that changes everything in terms of his market value, his confidence, and the urgency of the clubs monitoring him. Now, let me be very clear about where this story stands, factually. Because there is a difference between reporting and reality, and I will not blur that line on this channel. The original report comes from RTI Esporte, a Brazilian publication with contacts close to Rayan's camp. They reported that Manchester United and Arsenal are monitoring the player. Separately, reports from Team Talk, Caught Offside, and Sport Witness have added Real Madrid and PSG to that list, with Liverpool also mentioned in some outlets. That is the level we are at. Monitoring, watching, keeping tabs. There are no formal bids, there are no negotiations, there are no advanced talks. No club has triggered anything. No club has officially approached Bournemouth. What we have right now is a group of the biggest clubs in world football watching a very exciting young player and assessing whether a future move makes sense. And honestly, that is completely expected. That is what elite clubs do. The question is not whether Real Madrid and PSG are watching Rayan. Of course they are watching him. The real question, the meaningful question, is whether Arsenal are watching him with genuine intent to move, or whether this is just routine scouting. And based on everything I've been able to verify and research, I believe Arsenal's interest is genuine, and here is why. Right now, Arsenal are top of the Premier League. We just won the Carabao Cup on the 22nd of March, beating Manchester City 2-0 in the final. We are in the Champions League quarterfinals against Sporting CP. This has been an extraordinary season for this football club. Mikel Arteta has built something truly special. But even in a brilliant season, even when you are winning trophies and dominating leagues, a club of Arsenal's ambition has to be planning ahead. And when you look honestly and analytically at this squad, there is one area that needs addressing this summer: the left wing. Let me give you the numbers because I want you to see exactly what I am seeing. Gabriel Martinelli, one of the most loved players at this football club, a player who arrived as a teenager himself and captured the hearts of every Arsenal supporter. But this season, in the Premier League, Martinelli has 1 goal and 2 assists in 22 league appearances. 1 goal in 22 Premier League games. For a player in that position, at a club fighting for the title, that is simply not good enough. So I say that with respect and with affection for Martinelli, because I think we all know what he is capable of. But the output this season has not been there. Leandro Trossard is 31 years old. He has been a brilliant squad player and a reliable performer in cup competitions. But he is not a long-term solution on the left wing. His age and his contract situation both tell you that his role will continue to decrease. Eberechi Eze, signed last summer, is primarily a creative central midfielder and a right-of-centre attacker. He is not your specialist left winger. Noni Madueke, also signed last summer, is a right-side player. He has done well in his role, but he does not solve the left wing issue. So when Andrea Berta, our sporting director, looks at the squad and the transfer window this summer, the left wing is the priority. Multiple credible journalists and sources have confirmed that Berta is actively identifying left-winger targets for the summer of 2026. This is not speculation. This is a confirmed departmental need at Arsenal Football Club. Now here is where Rayan fits in. If Martinelli does leave, and the reports linking him to Barcelona for around 45 million euros are strong and have come from multiple sources, then Arsenal need a new left winger. A young one, a hungry one, a Brazilian one with Premier League experience who is already proven he can perform at this level. Does that description sound familiar to you? This is where we have to be honest. Really honest. Rayan has a release clause worth 100 million euros. That is £86.5 million at current exchange rates. Bournemouth will not sell him for less. He signed a 4.5-year contract in January. He is under contract until 2031. Bournemouth have absolutely no financial pressure to sell, no incentive to negotiate, and every reason to hold firm at that price. And here is the financial context on Arsenal's side. Last summer, we spent approximately £248 million on new signings. Victor Gyökeres, Eberechi Eze, Noni Madueke, Piero Hincapié, Martin Zubimendi. That is a massive investment in one transfer window. The financial fair play situation, the amortization of contracts, the wage structure, all of these things have to be managed carefully. Can Arsenal spend 86 million on a 19-year-old with 8 Premier League appearances to his name? Theoretically, yes, if Martinelli leaves for around 45 million, and if the club manages its sales and player value correctly this summer, the numbers can be made to work. But it requires a clear out. It requires discipline. It requires the board and Berta to agree that Rayan is the right profile and the right price. And here is the other thing I want you to consider. Arsenal are not alone in this race. Real Madrid are watching. PSG are watching. If Rayan has a good World Cup this summer, and let us say he starts for Brazil and performs well on the biggest stage in football, that release clause might feel like a bargain by September. What costs 86 million in May could feel like a 120 million negotiation by August. Time matters here, and Arsenal have a history, not always a proud one, of hesitating on young talent and then watching them go elsewhere. This is the tactical analysis section, and I want to spend real time on this because I think it is the most important part of the conversation. Mikel Arteta plays a very specific system. It requires intelligence, positional discipline, pressing intensity, and technical quality in tight spaces. Not every talent from a different league translates into his system. We have seen that at Arsenal before. A player can be brilliant at their current club and struggle to adapt to the demands Arteta places on his wide forwards. So the question is, does Rayan have what it takes to play in an Arteta system? And when I analyse his profile honestly, I think the answer is yes. Here is why. First, his physical profile. Arteta needs wide forwards who can press aggressively, cover ground, and win the ball back high. Rayan, at 185 centimetres, with pace and power, fits that physical profile very well. He is not a lightweight technical winger who will get blown off the ball in the Premier League. He has already shown he can compete physically in this league from day one. Second, his tactical flexibility. Arteta's left winger at Arsenal does not just attack on one side. They drift inside, they press the opposition right back, they combine with the overlapping left back, they contribute to the press. Rayan's ability to play on both flanks and his described mobility suggest he can adapt to multiple roles within a system. Ancelotti himself highlighted his mobility as a defining characteristic. That is exactly what Arteta wants. Third, his mentality. This is harder to verify from outside, but all the evidence points in the right direction. A 19-year-old who arrives in January in a foreign country, handles the pressure of being a £30 million signing, and scores on each of his first two starts, is not a player who crumbles under pressure. That mental resilience matters enormously at a club like Arsenal, where the expectations are high and the scrutiny is intense. The potential concern I would flag is inexperience at the highest tactical level. 8 Premier League games is not a large sample size. We do not yet know how Rayan responds to a run of poor form. We do not know how he handles the physicality of 3 games a week in a Champions League campaign. We do not know how he copes with being marked out of a game by a top fullback for 90 minutes. These are legitimate questions, but the same was true of Saka at 17. The same was true of Martinelli. The same was true of Miles Lewis-Skelly this season. Arsenal have a track record under Arteta of trusting talented young players with big roles and giving them the environment to grow. If Rayan arrives with the right support structure around him, there is every reason to believe he can develop into a top-level player in this system. Let me map the attacking positions clearly. Right wing, Bukayo Saka, our captain, the best right winger in the Premier League right now. 60 goal contributions in all competitions across the last 2 seasons combined. Untouchable, not moving. Nobody is competing with Saka for that shirt. Left wing, this is where the conversation around Rayan lives. If Martinelli departs this summer, and right now the Barcelona links are serious and persistent, then Arsenal needs someone to come in and take that number 11 role. Trossard as backup, Eze as a rotational option behind the main starter. Rayan would slot directly into that left wing role. His profile, Brazilian, powerful, direct, capable on either side, is almost tailor-made for that position in Arteta's system. The comparison to Martinelli in terms of physical and stylistic profile is obvious, and it is relevant. But Rayan may actually offer more than Martinelli does right now. More pace, more aerial threat, more long-range shooting, potentially more consistency. If Arsenal sign Rayan, and he hits the ground running the way he has at Bournemouth, they have solved a significant squad problem for the next 6 to 8 years. A player tied to the club until 2031, entering a new contract at Arsenal, presumably on improved terms, committed to the project at his peak age. That is an asset, not just a transfer, a long-term asset. Let me be clear and structured about what has to fall into place. Number 1, Arsenal need to sell Martinelli. The Barcelona interest has to be activated and the fee has to be agreed. Without that, Arsenal do not have the budget clarity to spend 86 million on a winger. Number 2, Arsenal need to trigger the release clause. There is no negotiating room here. Bournemouth have the leverage. They have a player under contract until 2031 who is about to go to a World Cup. You either pay 100 million euros or you do not get him. Number 3, Rayan needs to have a positive international window with Brazil. This sounds like it should not be Arsenal's concern, but it is, because if he has a breakout World Cup summer, the price does not change because of the release clause, but the competition certainly does. The moment Real Madrid or PSG decide they want him with genuine urgency, Arsenal cannot outbid those clubs on pure financial and prestige grounds. They need to move before that window. Number 4, the personal terms need to work. We do not have confirmed wage expectations for Rayan at this stage. But a player coming from Bournemouth to Arsenal, making a step up to a Champions League club, a title-challenging club, will expect significant wages. Arsenal have to ensure the wage structure does not create problems with existing players. Let me be completely straight with you, because that is what this channel is built on. Rayan is a brilliant prospect. He is one of the most exciting teenagers in European football right now. The transfer market for players of his profile, his age, and his potential is brutal and competitive. 100 million euros for a 19-year-old with 8 Premier League appearances is a lot of money. Objectively, analytically, financially, it is a significant bet. But I also believe that if Arsenal allow this player to develop elsewhere, and I am specifically thinking about Real Madrid here because they have the prestige, the wages, and the appeal that is very hard to compete with. We will be having a conversation in 3 years' time about why we did not move when we had the chance. The best time to sign a player of Rayan's profile is before the World Cup, before the hype reaches maximum volume, before every club on the planet is scrambling to sign him and he starts believing he is worth 200 million. Right now, the release clause is fixed, the fee is known, the player is young enough that the long-term investment is justified, and Arsenal have a clear positional need that Rayan addresses directly. If Arteta and Berta have watched this kid and identified him as the right profile, and based on the reports it appears they have, then this summer is the window to act. Do I think it happens? I think there is a real chance. Not a certainty. Not even close to a certainty right now. But a genuine, serious possibility. And the next 2 months are going to be absolutely decisive. If Rayan goes to that World Cup and lights it up, and then returns to a pre-season where Real Madrid and Arsenal and Manchester United are all fighting for his signature, that is a very different conversation to the one we are having now. Arsenal need to decide quickly, and they need to decide boldly. That is the full breakdown for today. If you found this useful, if you appreciated the depth of the research and the honesty of the analysis, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Arsenal should pay the 100 million? Do you think Rayan is worth that investment? Do you think this is just routine scouting that goes nowhere? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one of them. I am James. This is James' Arsenal analysis. Stay sharp, stay Gunners, and I will see you in the next one.